ready, Mark?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, well, if my calculations are correct, I've just hit stream. We should be going out live onto tinyradio.net for the first time ever. So if you're listening, thank you very much for joining our little experiment. This is the first time we've ever done this. And it's definitely an experiment of tech, so of hardware as well. So there might be some stuff which doesn't quite sound right, so you forgive us for that. We're going to try and adjust it as we go. The format of this program that we've essentially set up is we are going to be talking about a specialist subject. I'll introduce Mark at the moment, but Mark is keen to talk about Shackleton. We're going to split up our chat with a song. We're going to try and cue a song like real radio. Should give us a wee break to check all the sound. Should give you guys a break from our hopefully not too boring chat. And then we'll finish off the rest of the program. So that's essentially the format of today. If you're not familiar with Tiny Radio, it is a constant loop of indie music, which is basically playing all the time. This is our first live show, as I've mentioned about 3 times already. So I better introduce our guest, Mark Smith. So Mark is a great guy, fascinating guy. He is an entrepreneur. He has his own business. It's called Marked. And because I've already been speaking for the whole time, I'm going to let Mark talk a little bit about his business.
Thank you very much, Gavin. I'd like to start as well by saying, I didn't come here just to test the tech of Tiny Radio. I came here to test the soul of Tiny Radio. This is a momentous moment, and I'm so privileged to be here.
Well, you've been the number one hype man from the beginning, so I couldn't think of anyone else to have as the first guest.
Oh, brilliant. But no, my name is Mark Smith. Like every entrepreneur, my background is in civil engineering. And I went to university thinking I was going to build bridges and I was going to build big skyscrapers. But it was really bikes that got me excited. And what I do now is we're trying to put cycling on the map with our company called Marked. Yes, it's named after myself. It's a bit egocentric, but it's kind of in keeping with who we're going to talk about today. And the main thing we do at Marked is trying to bring the simplicity of the subway to bike navigation. So if that interests you at all, or you have a 45 or 50-year-old dad that sounds might be interesting to, please forward them on to my LinkedIn. It's Mark Smith. If you just type in that and then go down about 500 spaces, you'll find me right there. But yes.
Well, Mark, it sounds as if you're quite the outdoorsman. Am I right there?
I've been drawn into the outdoors. Since meeting you, Gavin, you've pulled me out. I'm actually from Falkirk originally. We've never even seen the outdoors. Even the indoors is probably outdoors.
Well, let's just keep it on the outdoors, because what I was trying to do there is lay up the first segue of the program. Because there's another outdoorsman that we're going to be talking about today. And his name is Ernest Shackleton.
Yes.
So my question for you, Mark, is who is Shackleton?
Who is Shackleton? That's a great question. So for scientific discovery, give me Scott. For speed and efficiency, give me Amundsen. But when disaster strikes and all hope is gone, get down on your knees and pray for Shackleton.
Oh, powerful stuff.
So
I have shivers.
Well, so did the guys Ernest Shackleton hung about with, because he was an Antarctic explorer and he was driven by, he had a huge ego. He says he was ambitious, he was curious, and to be honest, there's bits I love about Shackleton, but one of the great things is he had a deep belief in human resilience and, believing in people and pushing them to their absolute extremes. So in the early 20th century, he set out on one of the most daring expeditions of what is commonly known as the heroic age of exploration. This is when a lot of different explorers were trying to go to the North Pole, the South Pole, and do really daft stuff that could kill them, but they just kind of wanted their names in the history books, so fair enough. So he aimed to push further into the unknown than anyone before him. He tried to circumnavigate the South Pole. So we're going to try and talk about that story, and the story of Shackleton, but also the whole crew that was behind him with the endurance. And it's not just about ice and the geography, which is really interesting to try and picture yourself in that world, but it's also about what happens to people when a really bold plan meets the most unforgiving place in the world.
Right, gosh, it sounds fascinating. Well, we better start at the beginning, before they set out. So
1914, Shackleton set to cross the Antarctic. He knew it was dangerous, but believing preparation and good leadership could overcome uncertainty. So I don't know, from that part of the story, like, what do you remember of, like, them setting out?
I remember they didn't know if they could go or not because it was during the war, I think. I think they had to, and they obviously had to raise a lot of money to get it done. I think they needed sign off from the government to see if they could send a bunch of men away on an Arctic expedition, even though they might have been needed for the war effort. So there must have been a lot of drive to go, and that's about it. That's all I remember.
Yeah, was it Churchill? Was it Churchill or who was it? Somebody.
I think it was.
I think it was Churchill, but I think he was leader of the.
I think he was. Yeah. So I think it was Churchill. He sent a very short message saying they appealed to Churchill, and he sent a sort of a brief message saying, "Go" or something like that.
It was like "go ahead" or something like that. But no, the bits I remember of this are like, it sounds sad with like entrepreneurship, but it was like he had to raise funds. So like I remember, it wasn't his first time going on a exhibition as well. He went on with Scott before. I think they tried to reach the South Pole. That's what him and Scott tried to do. And I think they ended up being just short, but that's when he really got a taste for it. And then, he came back. And one of my favourite things, actually, about Shackleton on land is, what's it called? Yeah, supposedly he wasn't that great a guy at home. He was like, he wasn't really there for his family. He was a wee bit always looking for the next adventure, the next thrill. So he went around raising this money to go away on these adventures. And I think he had a wife, and I don't know if he had 3 kids as well.
Right.
But my favourite bit is always like, it sounded like he wasn't that there for his family, but the minute he got in the water, he wrote really nice letters back to his family saying how much he missed them.
He pined for them.
He pined for them.
And when he was at home, he was pining for the Arctic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a grass or ice is always greener on the other side.
Ice is always greener on the other side. Right. So you say that he travelled with Scott before, but he wouldn't have been the guy in charge when he was travelling with Scott. He was very much a right-hand man, if you will.
Yeah. I don't think that's one of the interesting things about Shackleton as well. Like, I don't think he had any. Maybe that's tough to say, but he didn't have that many. What would you call it? Like hard skills. Like he wasn't like he was the leader, he was the boss, but he wasn't like the captain. He wasn't driving the ship or sailing the ship. He wasn't the navigator as well. There was like other key people who hopefully we'll get to talk about in this, like. Frank Worsley, like he was the kind of navigator, the captain of the Endurance, and then Tom Crean as well, like he was a key part of the crew, an Irish guy. He's got a pub in Ireland now that I know friends really like.
Well, listen, we are 7 minutes into our first ever Tiny Radio show. That's almost a third of the way through, and we've not even left to go to the Arctic yet. So we need to move swiftly on. So our next chapter is Trapped in the Ice. So. Well, I've given it away now, haven't I? They obviously get trapped in the ice. So, Mark, if you can recall, do you know really what happened there?
Yeah, so this is the bit like when they say there was planning went into it, but I don't think the planning was that great. So this is really when they went that far south that they started to get actually trapped in the pack ice. And this is where it went from, like Gavin's saying, it was a voyage, everything was going, everybody was excited. To a waiting game. This was the first time they really hit the elements, and that momentum disappeared, and survival began to replace exploration as one of the objectives. It wasn't clear yet that they were going to have to chuck the mission, but it started tilting that way a little bit.
When do you think this would have occurred to Shackleton? Do you think he's the sort of guy who would have just been like, right, that's us, or would... what would have been going through his mind at this point?
I think it's so hard to work out what was going in his mind. I think he was. I don't think he would ever have been like, "Oh, that's us," or "That's." I think he was a man of the moment. Like he could feel moments quite well, and I think even more keen. I don't think he really. I think he actually analysed. He analysed probably the I don't know if it makes sense, but I probably analysed the people and what they needed to get to the next stage, rather than analyse like. Oh, how do I complete this journey, if that makes sense?
So he could have been a one day at a time type guy.
I think he was, or he was, I don't think that's fair, because I think he was an amazing leader. Like, he was always, he was weirdly, like, always thinking ahead, but always thinking in the moment. And I think he was really, really open to changing directions as well.
Right. Okay, so they're here, they're in the Antarctic, they're trapped in the ice. Okay, they've still got their ship. Mark, I'm imagining they don't have their ship for long.
No. So yeah, there's amazing stories. Like you should really. There's a book. What's the book called again? Is it the Endurance?
The book that is called Endurance by Alfred Lansing, and it's where we've got all of our knowledge. That and a series of podcasts as well. And it's a fantastic book if you've not read it. If we're talking about something which you might find interesting, that's the book. Endurance by Alfred Lansing.
Yeah. So that part, I feel like that's where I really got hooked in. So I liked Shackleton before. All the guys, so yeah, they're trapped in the ice, and I think as well they're trapped, I don't know for how long, like I think it's 8 months or something like that. It's not a short amount of time. And also the bits that I really remember are, like you're on the South Pole over winter, you're getting hardly any days of sun, so you're in darkness quite a lot of the time. And I just thought like, you'd be going mental. Like you just go, as like someone on the crew, you just go absolutely crazy. But I really remember the ones that like, they all credit Shackleton for, he was the boss. He would tell them they had strict regimes. That was the thing. They had tasks they had to do every day. So I can imagine in their mind as well that time didn't fly by. Like you're still in the dark all that time. But I think you were going from task to task. He never, as the leader, maybe this sounds like horrible dictatorship, but he never gave them enough time to really think about the wider circumstances. He was always like, oh, this is what we need to do next for this reason.
Yeah. And I know that diary keeping was a big part of how he kept everybody sane. Like everybody had their routines, and every member of the crew kept a diary, which is why the book is so good, because everything's so well documented.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best bits about the book is like, yeah, really getting into the mind of these people. And also you can tell it's personally written, but you can also tell they all have admiration for Shackleton, who they all call the boss, but they have their admiration in different ways. Like, and I think towards, I won't spoil the ending, but I can imagine why they had admiration for him as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've covered the ship eventually goes. So you've called this chapter, I can hear in my notes, you've called it "She's Going, Boys." Can you explain that quote a wee bit there?
Oh, I think it's like, so they're on this ice again for, I hate that I've not written down the dates, but I think it's about 8 months or 9 months. There's a long time, and I think a quiet sense comes over the team. The crew of the Endurance, that they can hear that they talk about, it sounds like gunshots sometimes going off, and you're talking about a huge wooden ship, and the ice is coming from all these different directions, and it's bending the beams of the ship, and every now and then some of the beams snap, and they keep pumping water. I think that's one of the key bits, is like somebody's on the pumps 24/7. Skippy, I think it is. No, I've got his name wrong. I can't remember. The carpenter, but he's got blankets and he's just plugging holes all the time with all the water coming in. McNeish,
the Scotsman.
Yes, McNeish. I can't remember. There's another way to say his name as well. But yeah, so they're sitting on this ship and they all kind of know it's slowly sinking. And I don't know, the quote. They talk about Shackleton coming into the room at night. He knocks on the door calmly, and he just says, "She's going, boys." And I think it's something nuts about him. It's just such, like, you got to set up the situation. You've been 8 months on this ship. You know it's going downhill. It's like a slow slide into disaster. And now you're getting told you need to leave the ship to go and camp on the ice. So, like, you're in South, like, it's crazy, but he just comes in such a calm way. "She's going, boys." Gosh. He just addresses the situation.
It is crazy when you put it like that, because mentally what that must do. The uncertainty that is created. And then that brings us on to the next part, which is life on the ice. So that is, essentially, they're just floating about in tents on the ice. Sometimes it's even a little bit warmer, and the ice is slush. So you're just sort of sleeping on slush every night with complete uncertainty. Your ship's gone. You have no idea how you're going to get home. What's your thoughts on the mindset of the crew and how they dealt with this part?
Yeah, I think like this is one of my favourite bits about Shackleton, or one of the key insights was, so they had tents when they went onto the ice, and I think it was like either 4 or 5 men per tent. And what Shackleton done was he decided who would go in which tent, and he put all the potential troublemakers or the ones in the group that he think could start moaning or get in people's heads. He put them in his tent, so it was always the idea of like, not keep your enemies close, but like, it wasn't like he was letting all the yes men. He surrounded himself with probably the no men, or the people that he thought were most likely to kind of, I was actually going to say like it's going too far, saying creating a mutiny or something like that.
It would have been a big risk, I imagine, if they lost faith in him at this stage.
Oh, 100%. I can't remember the other one we read, but like that was a big part of it. Is like once you lose faith in the captain, there's a void there, and like in these like conditions, you all need to be working together, or you're stuffed.
Yeah, I remember at one point of this, because he held his daily meetings with like the key guys from the crew, and I remember he intentionally included the troublemakers in these daily meetings, not because he needed their advice or their opinion. He probably dismissed it, but he needed them to feel involved. He needed them to feel important, so that they, didn't lose their faith in the boss. And it's people that he thought was influential, could be influential. I think Hurley, the photographer, was one of them.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a risk. This guy, he's popular. If he turns against me, he'll have some swing. So I think that was constantly on his mind, the management of the men, essentially.
Yeah. How do you think? How do you think he was able to do that so well?
I've got no idea. Maybe just constantly think. He must be good at constantly thinking about it, potentially. Maybe keeping his distance from the men as well. I'm not sure. I know that he would have had to keep a certain distance from the men, be quite objective about them. Understand that he's the boss, and that means that there's a certain void between him and them.
Yeah.
And be looking at them as something else rather than just friends.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting, because I was actually going to say, and I think there is two sides to it. Like sometimes, like we learn about like empathy when we were at uni, and it's like you don't need to always be a good person to be empathetic. Like it's like how well you read other people's characters. And I think he was amazing at that. Yeah, like I think he got the read of people really well. He got the read of group dynamics really well. But again, like you say, I don't know if he probably kept his own distance a little bit, because he was a bit mythical to all the men. Like they all called him boss. Like they really respected him.
Yeah, there's a certain personality, which I guess some people have. They're able to, I guess, command people and get the admiration of the men to allow him to do that.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say before the break is I don't think he sat there and thought about it. I think a lot of it came naturally to him. I think he was like a man of instinct. I don't think he can swap and change that many plans. Yeah. You can't that many plans, you can't swap and change them. He kind of was like, he had a nose for a good plan, a good idea, and I think he kind of went with it with conviction. And probably the other thing I'll say is, he went with it with conviction, and then when he messed up, he also owned up to it, and he just went on to the next plan with conviction as well. So I don't think it was like he was always like, it wasn't like he had 100% good plans, but yeah, it was interesting.
Nice. Well, thanks. Well, yeah, we'll take a wee break. We're going to play a song from the Tiny Radio Library. This was the first artist to actually give us a song, email saying, yes, please play it. It's a nice song called Child of the 70s by the musician Derek Clegg. I found the song in the Free Music Archive. It's a great song, and he was quick to reply saying, go ahead and play it. So who better to play on the first live show? And we'll be back after the song. Okay, so we're back live. I've just been informed by Lauren that the music is much louder than our voices, Mark, so we may have deafened members of the audience who are listening with headphones. So if we've done that, then my apologies. Yeah, we're definitely still working out the kinks of how to do this, but we hope that you enjoyed the song all the same. There's loads of great music like that playing on the station all the time, so you can tune in and hear tracks like that whenever you want. But less about music and back to drifting around on the ice with complete uncertainty. And that's about halfway through the story. So, Mark, what happens next?
Yeah, so they drifted around the ice for, I think it was 5 months. Temperatures regularly drop below negative 20 degrees.
Wow.
Like, I think it's nuts. Like, I think I struggle to really like picture it, and it's like the constant wind. But I think, like as we said before, on the boat and on the ice as well, like Shackleton deliberately kept the men busy, like chores, routines, meal times, and yeah, he broke up them cliques in the tents to avoid isolation and resentment. So I think like this bit is just gets really mad into like exploration, and I think maybe it's interesting with your business and startup journey, but it's like survival is a psychological project, like not just the logistics. So I don't know if you've thought about that part at all. Like, you have a plan at first, and you've got all these things that you've got all these goals you want to hit, but at some point, it's also the psychology of just staying in a bad or getting through a bad time.
Yeah, and it's uncertainty as well, because you don't know, like, if the ice is going to get close enough to land so that you can make a break for it. So you're just waiting for that break, and there's a lot when you're on certain times with life. It's obviously quite tough. Like, for example, if you're potentially applying for jobs again and again, that period of your life, it's hard to stay. It's hard to stay cheery and happy when you've got this looming uncertainty. It's hard to keep up the good habits and seeing through it. But this is obviously what these men managed to do whilst on this sheet of ice floating about the place.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's again, like, I give Shackleton a hard time because I think, like, he set out on this mission, it was probably ill prepared, and so I don't think his planning was that great. But I think you hit the nail on the head. It was he actually gave the men that, like, he gave them that kind of the emotional kind of bit to get through, like to keep that stable.
And they were really good at their habits. Obviously, that kept them going. Diary keeping, regular exercise, games and stuff.
Yeah, I think the boredom was just as dangerous as the cold, like at that point. But yeah, so at one point the ice starts to loosen up, and they've got these like smaller boats. So, like, the Endurance was the big ship, and then they had these 3 smaller boats, and they make a sail for it, and they head towards Elephant Island. And Elephant Island's actually just getting to Elephant Island is a crazy bit in the story.
I remember that bit from the book, just thinking that bit sounded awful.
Yeah, definitely. I think is it Worsley, the navigator?
Yeah.
Like, that's where the 3 of them, like, or the bits from the book I remember is some of the men have gloves and some of the men don't. Like, remember we were saying negative 20 degrees, you're on the ocean, like at the South Pole, like, I think wave swell is up to like 40 feet. Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, they finally hit Elephant Island, which is like, it's totally uninhabited, remote. It's outside shipping routes, so like nobody's coming by at this point. But it is the first time the men have stood on land in nearly 500 days. And at this point, they sheltered like under their boats, so they turned these over, and it's the Elephant Island part. They've been on I can't remember how long they sailed for. I think it was quite a long time, but it really took it out of the men. But it occurred to Shackleton that rescue even from this island was impossible unless they went out on the water again and other people went for help. Right.
So although they reached land, it might, it was temporary relief from the greater voyage.
Yeah, I think it's like safety can still be absolutely hopeless. Like, you're like dreaming for land, and then you get there and you're like, oh, we're still stuffed. Like, yes, that is brutal. Yeah.
Gosh. So they've been in the ship, waiting for it to be slowly crushed by the ice. It gets crushed by the ice, and then they're hanging out on the ice for ages. Did you say that was 5 months or longer?
Yeah.
So they're hanging on the ice, just complete uncertainty, and then they've crossed the gap to Elephant Island, and that was awful. Freezing. They just had to sit still for a lot of the time. Yeah, absolutely cold, wave water going over them. And now they're on Elephant Island, and they're still not out of it.
No, I think this is when Shackleton, again, like, I don't know how to read it, but it was his realization that was, like, staying, like, just meant certain death. Like, if they stayed on this island, it felt safer than the sea, but he knew they couldn't last. So that's when he starts to weigh up the options of going out in the water again. And he could tell as well, he could tell some of the men he'd put them through their absolute, I guess he knew guys' limits really well as well. Yeah. Like, at this point, he decides to actually choose to leave men behind, which is quite mad. Like, it's like, usually you'd think, oh, we all go or we don't go. But at this point, he chooses to leave men behind. He chooses who he wants to go on with him. And these men who were left behind, they had to have trust that Shackleton would come back. Like, the group that goes away on what then becomes the James Caird voyage, so that's one of the other boats, that he would come back for them.
Yeah, and one thing, this is why, if this does sound interesting to you, there's probably loads that we are not including here. Like, for example, what were they eating? Now, I know that I think on Elephant Island, because they were sort of shooting seals as they go, and then on Elephant Island, I think there were penguins. There were lots of penguins that they could kill, and I think they could also use the guana. I think it's the penguin guana, which is basically just the penguin shit.
Whoa.
which is I think that they were burning that somehow for their stoves. So there's loads of interesting details along the way as to how they adapted to each of these scenarios, which is really inspiring as well. Mark and I obviously don't have time to cover all of that, but there's loads of gaps, so we recommend you read more about this voyage to understand how they overcame these challenges. But yes, as you say, the James Caird voyage.
Yeah. So this bit is nuts, and this is where like Worsley really gets like, this is where it goes from like just being like expert to like legendary mode. So it's like 800 meters across the Southern Ocean. This boat is 22 feet long. They've reinforced it this time with some wood and seal blood. And so he sets out, and they describe the waves as being mountainous. So like mountainous,
Jeez.
freezing spray, like it just covered in ice. So they usually done it in shifts. I think like 3 of them would sail for a bit, and then the other 3. But Worsley, he's always there, just navigating. And so 800 miles, right?
800
Like,
miles.
picture this, Gavin. 800 miles, right? So I can't remember the thing they used to like. So they used to be able to tell with the sun. He had this certain dial, and then he'd be able to tell where he's on the map. So imagine you're going 800 miles. You've got your phone, okay? Like the map's on your phone, and you've got to go 800 miles in one direction. You're just in a field, actually. Like not even anything that big. You're in a field, and you get GPS, right? And then you've got to go 800 miles. But the minute you take one step, the GPS goes out. During that 800 miles, he only had one other time where the clouds were dispersed enough that he could get a reading from the sun where they could accurately see where they were. So, like, if you imagine trying to walk 800 miles in one direction, like, at a random point, you get to find out where, again, you are on the map, which is quite useful if you're walking 800 miles.
Absolutely.
But then imagine doing it with no points of reference and just huge waves changing direction. It is nuts. But I'll spoil the story for you. The boy hits the bloody South Georgia. Oh, he hits the pin. Like, it's just crazy. Like this, I think this one breaks me up the most. This is just absolutely mad that he manages to get there. So that's when they land at South Georgia. And do you know what happens when they land at South Georgia?
Well, I know that they have to cross South Georgia.
Why? Because they've landed on the wrong side.
And South Georgia is not flat, is it?
No. It's a huge mountainous area.
So, and there's 3 of them left at this point. So it's Shackleton. What was the name of the navigator again?
Worsley.
Worsley and one other.
Tom Crean, the Irishman.
Okay, so there it is. These 3 guys are left. Think of everything they've done so far, and they're still not out of the woods.
Yeah.
They're looking up at sharp, snowy peaks.
Yes. Yeah. So this is like, even nowadays, this is some of the like toughest hiking you can do. And I feel like this is where I really start to respect the story, because I have no idea what it's like to be on the water. So I'm just like, oh, that's tough compared to that. That's tough. But this point is like, they've got to hike for 36 hours over huge mountains in 1915. So like minimal gear. They take wood and nail it into the bottom of their shoes and put nails on that for crampons. And like these guys aren't hikers; they're seamen, and like it's just crazy what they've done. So the interior of this South Georgia was completely uncharted. So like mountains, glaciers, like they've got no maps as well. They're just like, we're kind of going that way. And this ended up, well, actually, sorry, I don't want to ruin it, but yeah.
Well, I think we could. We have time to cover the end, so we may as well.
Okay. So this ended up being the first recorded crossing of South Georgia's interior, which is nuts. But there's a bit that triumphs this even more. So they're hiking up, they're doing all this crazy stuff. They go the wrong ways at some points as well. There's a great story, actually. I really like this part. They go down the wrong path at one point. It just leads to a totally like cliff edge. And they come back up a little bit, and Shackleton can see like the men are absolutely done. You remember 36 hours in really tough conditions. And he says to them, he's like, he knows they're at their limit. So he's like, you know what? We're going to like take a break. We're going to sleep. We're going to take a nap. And he says, I'll stay awake and I'll leave you to nap for 30 minutes. So like the 2 guys go, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good, boss. I love a nap. So they close their eyes. The minute they close their eyes, Shackleton's like, no chance these boys are waking back up in 30 minutes. So he gives them a solid 5-minute nap and he wakes them up. And to be fair, I feel like they get a wee bit hard done by. He's like, yeah, that was 30 minutes. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, that was 30 minutes. And it's that kind of like emotional, I don't know, like he just worked on a different wavelength. But that got them going, and then they ended up crossing the mountain. And then, I tell the one last, my favourite story.
Of course,
Sorry.
By all means.
So Shackleton, Crean, and Worsley, like they're at the top of the mountain, and I think at this point they know they're actually getting quite close. So like survival is in sight at this point, and on one side they can see like where the whaling station is that they're aiming for, but on the other side they can see like a huge storm coming in, and they're at the top of this like huge mountain. So like without kit, and they're absolutely knackered. They know if they stay up here overnight, they are done for. And the two guys are talking between each other, Crean and Worsley, and they're trying to work out like, what do we do? Because they know they can't get down. Like it's a huge slope on the other side, and they're looking at each other and they're like, what do we do? We can't stay up here. Da da da. And Shackleton just goes, "We slide." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "We slide." And then they're like, "No, it's dangerous. It's like we'll die. We'll no chance. Like it's just absolute like stupid. What the hell are you talking about?" And he's just like, "We'll slide." And so they end up bloody getting the three of them roping themselves together and making this weird like human sledge. And they just like back in the day sledging, just nail it off the side of this cliff. And they just slide for, I think it's like 2,000 feet or something like that. It's something crazy. And the guys talk about it really funnily. They like say like, at first they were scared, but they get all the way to the bottom and then they just have this weird laughter between the three of them of like nervous anxiety. Like, but yeah, and then after that they walk into the whaling station.
And that brings us to the end, which is they are saved. They are saved, and eventually the rest of the crew gets saved as well.
Yeah, and that's a whole crazy story as well. Like he he goes back and he saves the whole crew. That's absolutely mad.
Yeah. Well, obviously there's so much that we've missed there because there's so many details to cover as to how they get the crew back. Again, all the fine points of the journey. No wonder there's so many great books and podcasts written about it. So we've definitely had a lot of fun chatting about it.
Yeah.
And we hope that you've enjoyed listening to us.
Can I sum them up?
Yeah, please.
Yes. So my sum up of Shackleton was like his ego wasn't satisfied with a normal life. He wanted to be a somebody, and he planned a goal that would put his name down in history. That was like his thing. And yeah, he ended up being laughably short. Like if you look back at like what they tried to do, he didn't get anywhere near that. But life ain't about how hard you can hit. Life is not about success. It's about how hard you can get hit. Pull yourself up and keep moving forward. Like he didn't lose the head when the mission and his dream fell apart. He reorientated and saved the life of all of his men from the problem he actually got them into. So I don't know how I feel about Shackleton. Thank you.
But he got them all back safely and alive.
Yeah, he did.
And we have arrived safely and alive at the end of the first Tiny Radio Live. Mark, thank you so much. You've made that very easy and very fun. I hope that people enjoy listening to it. Or at least, thank you very much for indulging us. Again, any feedback about audio quality and structure and show, then please let me know. Otherwise, enjoy the tunes.